Did you guys ever go to the county fair and like take any of your cows or livestock?
My kids did, they took calves.
Kelsey, how about the, sorry, how about the 4-H club? Because my mom was in it all the time, and she absolutely loved it. Did you guys have something like that?
The kids were in the 4-H, yes.
What did they do in it?
Well, I remember the kids learned to sew and stuff like that, the girls, you know, and the boys just worked with cattle.
I can add a little bit to that, because I went to the 4-H fair this year, and I was in the 4-H with Ed's daughter, you know, when we were kids, and in those times all the competition was around animals and around crops. So there was a sugar beet growing contest. There was a contest for every kind of garden vegetable, and there were animal showings of all kinds and animal training and all that kind of thing. Now it's photography, it's rocketry, it's spread out a great deal, but it's still a very viable thing, and it is still key to the cores of agriculture. Very popular in this part of the world still. 4-H goes on, it's still a very big deal.
Yes, we butchered our own beef, and my mother baked bread all the time. And I remember she baked a loaf of rye bread, and my dad weighed it. It weighed 13 pounds. So what they do, they'd set that loaf of rye bread on the middle of the table, and homemade butter, and we ate our fill.
Dallas, your parents, well, like you said, they were Russian. When the war broke out between Russia and Germany, like before it did with the U.S., did they, how did they feel about that? Did they have any desire to go back home or help or anything?
No.
They wanted to stay out of it.
Yeah. You see, my folks were, they became citizens here. I just seen on the TV this noon where a bunch of them just held up their hand. My folks had to go to school 2 years at night, and they had a teacher, and they learned all this stuff, you know. And then even before they got their citizenship papers at the court, the judge would ask them questions. But that's no more today.
Greg, were your parents fine around the Red Scare? I mean, they're probably like the Red Scare, the communists. Everyone was blaming everyone.
The Cold War.
The Cold War, yeah. Were they still around for that?
No. I guess they were too tickled to get into this country.
McKenna, so when your parents first came to America, what brought them into this area? Do you know?
Sugar beet industry. They worked beets. They lived in a little shack. And that's what they done for a living until they could get a little money, you know, to buy a farm.
So, you know, was it Greg? Was it really just because of the beets, or did they not like the farming belt up in Iowa and stuff? Because you said they did grain when they were in Russia, right?
Yeah, they farmed in Russia. But that's what he told me. See, they lived by the Volga River. And I guess it was awful fertile ground. He said, wheat, you never seen wheat like this in this country. It grows over there, but the Russians didn't know how to do it and manage it.
Kelsey, on to another thing, the technology, because I remember my mom telling me stories of getting, because she had 7 brothers and sisters, and just getting a big barrel full of hot water for them to take a bath. When they finally got an actual bath or a shower, everything changed, or even getting a toilet. Do you remember times like that, like getting a washing machine or getting running water through the house?
Yes. You know, an old Maytag is what they had, an old Maytag washer. I remember I had to carry the water downstairs into the washing machine, and then when the load was done, I had to carry the water back quite a change. You know, one thing I didn't tell him, Steve, was when I was in the Army, one day, the colonel says, I want you to walk down the side of the ocean for a ways. And you know, when we walked down there, there was a one-man sub sitting there, 7 of them. And you could look at the tracks. The water was clear. You could see the tracks go in, you know. And one of the boys said, Ed, get in there. I want to take your picture. I said, all right. Well, shut the door. I said, no way are you going to shut this door. That was quite an experience.
Wow. I want to show you a few things on screen here. And if you look around, and you can explain some of these things. This is a picture from, as you see, BB Draw 1905. And this is 2 groups of oxen who were pulling a large plow. And that's what created what we now call the seep ditch, which is
the drain ditch.
the drain ditch, yeah.
But you know, they made the Milton Reservoir all with horses and scrapers.
Can you explain what a scraper is and how they did that?
Well, a scraper, generally they had 4 horses on it. And it was just a big piece, and they could put it, you know, they had a handle where they could put it down like a road grader, you know, and get it full of dirt, and then take it to the bank.
So maybe a quarter of a yard at a time or something, was it?
Yeah, I forget. See, Leif Chestnut helped dig that.
Yeah? Oh, he did?
Yeah.
So this was obviously, this was in your parent, 1905 would have been your parents weren't here yet, is that right?
No, they came in 1905.
Okay, in the year 1905, okay, very good. Again, this is, I think this is, what did they say, these were oxen, correct?
Yeah, right.
When they were, I don't know, 32 or so, I think I was told at one time, that pulled this ditch. And this is a typical farm, that is actually at the original BB Draw school. Here are some trains. These were taken in LaSalle in 1939. Can you talk about train travel on steam trains? You covered a lot of miles, I suppose, in the military on trains,
Yes,
did you?
yes. And we had to sleep on the train, we had to eat on the train. And sometimes it was kind of, you know, the train goes this way and that way, and sway a little bit. But they got us there.
And what about troop trains? Were you on troop trains?
Yes.
Yeah. What was different about those?
Well, they were fixed just for troops, just bunks,
Mhm.
and that's about all. Then they had a car, or a couple of cars where you could go in and kind of entertain yourself. They played cards and stuff like that, you know. But I'll never forget, it was on the 4th of July. We were coming from the East Coast to the West Coast when I went to the islands. We stopped at Denver, and I was only 50 miles from Denver. And boy, it was hard to stay on that, and not go EWL with the hill. But we didn't know it was gonna be there, or Helen could have been there, you know, just wait. But everything was secret in the Army, during the war anyway.
Dallas, how old were you when you were drafted?
Let's see, I was about around 18 or 19. We were only married about a year.
Greg, did you have to ever travel, like you traveled by boat through, or to the islands, right?
Oh, I thought he was gonna ask that question.
Mhm.
I got so seasick every time I got on the boat. I thought I was gonna die, and then when I got well, I thought we were gonna get torpedoed.
Greg, did you ever see any of the big aircraft carriers?
Big what?
Aircraft carriers.
Yes, yes, yes. In fact, we went on one when we went to Pearl Harbor. And my cousin, one of those was shot out from under him. And I said, well, it was Philip Knaub. And he says, well, there was fire all over the water. And he says, I'd put my head down and swim along, and I'd come up to see if there was more fire. I tell you, some of them boys went through a lot.
Nicholas, how long are you in the military?
Well, right at 2 years. But, you know, in the military, you had all kinds of people. If we needed a carpenter, there was carpenters there. I remember when we got into Manila, there was an old piano there. One guy got on it and he wanted to almost beat the stuffings out of it. You have people that can make music, anything. The people, there were different people.
Kelsey, where did you meet your wife?
You want to know where I met her?
Well, like, how did you meet her?
Well, I was playing baseball, BB Draw, with the BB Draw kids, and she was there. And I asked her for a date. That's how we met.
Greg, did you play a lot of sports when you were a kid?
No, just ball and school.
Greg, were you around when football started to become like when it got really big? I think it was the 60s, once they started the championships? Football? Like when they started playing football, because like, I think it didn't start like the 60s or something, when they started getting really big, getting the championships, the national one.
I liked baseball at that time. You know, the baseball, they never got paid very much like they do now. They get paid so much money,
Yeah.
Yeah.
millions of dollars.
What do you, Kelsey, what do you think now of the baseball players that were caught doing steroids?
Well, they're supposed to set an example for our young kids, but maybe they thought they could get away with it.
Dallas, so do you still have, do you still own the farm?
Yes,
And so you're still farming on it?
well, a little bit.
A little bit? Why is that? Not as much as in the past?
Well, I sold off some of it. I sold in between the ditches there, you know, that's where my daughter and son-in-law live there now. And I think it was 10 years. Oh, they've been here longer than 10 years, I think. But anyway, she married a doctor. And all of a sudden, they decided they had to come home and take care of mom and dad. So we sold them that property there, and they built a new house there, and they're still there. And they got binoculars. If I'm going through the trail and they can see if I fall or.
McKenna. So recently there's, been a lot more technology and stuff with, laptops and cell phones and iPods and all that.
Oh my.
What do you think about that? Do you think it's good to improve like that, or do you think it's kind of like
Unnecessary.
Well, I think it's technology if we use it in the right way, you know.
Mhm.
Just like when I was in the Army, we had an airplane, they call it a P-33. And it went 300 miles an hour, and we thought that was fast. When we were out training, they'd come down over you and they'd lift the shirt off your back. And I was telling I don't remember who that was. They had him, he was testifying in front of the congressman in the Senate. And he said, one day we'll have a plane that'll go 1,000 miles an hour. And they said, throw him out, he's crazy.
Nicholas, you said you still own the farm and do a little farming on that. Like, I know that obviously a lot has changed in the years, and now how's farming in your life how's farming in your life now in terms of technology and help and such?
Well, I don't milk any more cows. And I did buy some cattle this spring to put in my pasture. And I just sold them here about a month ago. I didn't want to have anything to do in the wintertime, you know. After you get 82 years old, you don't get around so good anymore.
I was gonna ask you, Ed, if when Bill, my Uncle Bill, like all the others, had milk cows, and he told me years ago, he said, the day he sold his cows is the day he got out of jail. That's how he put it. Right? Did you feel the same way when you were untied from cows?
No, I've never regret selling them.
Yeah.
It was just, it was a hard job, you know. You had to be there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But we made a good living. Put all the kids through college.
It was a cash business, right?
Yes.
It was a steady cash business.
Yeah, and we done all our own work, you know, and the kids helped. And then when they went to school, my oldest son, he worked his way through college by milking. He got up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
It is hard work.
It was.
Hard work. I got pictures here to show you too, just to bring you up to speed. This is taken a couple of days ago. And Ed, if you can talk about sugar, how sugar beets started when how you planted sugar beets and how you had to take care of sugar beets and irrigate. I'm just gonna show these pictures quickly. This is how sugar beets are harvested now. This is the tractor with the harvester and the truck that goes alongside. And there's the machine that does it. And it goes along and picks out, I think this is a 4-row maybe, that pulls the beets out of the ground. You see all these white things in the foreground here are sugar beets with the tops that are gone.
Yeah.
So what's left now are the beets in the ground. There it is, closer up there. If you can see the beets just about everywhere. The point is, there is $200,000 worth of machinery
Yeah, right.
to do the job. And that's just a small part of it.
Takes a lot of money to put the crop in nowadays, I think. I had a nephew out at Wiggins. My brother farmed out at Wiggins a long time. And they always raised good crops. He was always in the high 10. I asked him one day, Dwayne, what does it cost? I was farming 2 farms, you know, what does it cost to put the crop in? He said $500,000. So that's quite an investment.
Farming is high stakes gambling.
You're right. And then if you get a hailstorm,
Greg Cranberry, so when your parents, you said they came from like a fertile area, like really nice ground, and you came, or they came here, what was the reaction to the soil, or did they ever tell you?
well, they came to Windsor. They started
Oh.
in Windsor. The main thing they done was thin beets and top them, you know. And they lived in a little shack until they could do better. I don't know, they taught us kids to save money, save for a rainy day. And I think that was a good philosophy.
Greg again. So when you started farming though, did you find that the ground very like good, or did you have to rotate a lot? Did you have to try and fertilize it?
Well, we had to fertilize it, yeah. And now since the cows are gone, on 50 acres of alfalfa last year, I put $1,700 worth of commercial fertilizer on. Phosphate and 3 or 4 different mixtures, and it paid off. See, I just irrigate it, and my neighbor, Brian Barton, comes and harvests it and hauls it off. And this year he bought a new, it'd be, if you'd see a new harvester that cut hay now, it'll go 18 miles an hour. And when I first went out there and seen that machine, on the side it said, "Be sure you put your seatbelt on after you get in." And he said, he stopped and talked to me, and he said, "I can't go 18 miles an hour. He says, your hay is too thick and too good."
Nicholas, when you were farming, did you have a lot of trouble with drought or environmental things that affected your crop a couple years or something like that? And if so, how'd you get through that?
No, we had laws that whenever we dusted for a weevil, we couldn't cut it for 7 days. That's how we got through I didn't do anything myself. I hired it done
Okay.
commercially. And I knew it was done right, and they take the blame if anything goes wrong.
Great, Cranberry. What about the Dust Bowl? Did that hit very hard when your parents were, when you were here?
It did. Our ground that we had seeped a little there, and we raised fairly good beets. And I told the other group that in 1934, my father bought a new car. And in 1935, he bought a new truck.
The point is that the agriculture went on during the Dust Bowl.
Yes.
I think there's a misconception that people think that it just blew out everybody, but it didn't.
No, it didn't. It was, I don't know, do you remember anything about it?
Only what I've been told, you know, that,
It was dusty
right.
all day long,
Mhm.
every day, dusty. And you could, had to put rugs in front of the doors so that it wouldn't come in, the dust. And we just, we thought we would never quit, but it quit.
It was so bad, as was told by, the other day, when they had Sunday dinner, they actually used a table, they laid the food out and they put a tablecloth over the food, and they sort of ate underneath the tablecloth because there was so much dust.
Yes, and what was I gonna say? The sand blew continually, and if where the fence posts were, it covered them up with pure sand.
But people in the country, I mean, you hear about how people went hungry during the Depression, but people in the country still had gardens, they still had production, right? And
We grew our own meat, and we had our eggs, and Dad was a good, what would you call him? He liked chickens, and we raised enough eggs to trade for grocery and still get money out.
in those days, you could actually trade.
Yeah. can't no more.
there were virtually no regulations, and probably there weren't many problems, were there, with
I don't remember very many.
anybody complaining about the quality of the food or the safety of the food?
We had a little grocery store on Main Street, around the block there. That's where we done all our trading.
Yeah.
And he bought all the eggs, you know.
Do you have any recollections of, somebody else here talked about gypsies coming through Weld County?
No, I heard
No?
the folks talk about them, but I
Yeah?
never seen them come true.
Hmm. Yeah, jump in.
Greg, so what you think, or do you think it was a lot better when everything was privately owned and it was like a small, like a business, you knew the people who worked there, you knew the family that worked there? Do you think that was better than it is now with the Walmart and the big grocery stores?
Well, I like to think it was better, but you know, you can't stop progress.
All right, Greg, just
And
because,
even sugar beets. We'd save a pile of sugar beets. And when we started making syrup out of them, Dad kept the fire going under that big boiler day and night. And we'd cook the syrup. We had a press, you know, after they were cooked, we'd press over the syrup. And my mom would cook it till it was nice and thick. That was good.
So you made your own beet syrup,
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah.
Like maple syrup, used it like
Right,
maple syrup,
right.
same idea, yeah.
That was better than maple syrup. I just told Helen the other day, I sure wished I had some of Mom's sugar beet syrup here.
Dallas, are there other farms around you that have been owned by individuals that have owned it as long as you have? Or is it mostly kind of new farmers?
Well, when I started farming, there was one farm west of me there, Carl Hitterly, maybe you know him.
Yeah.
And then there was a farm south, but they didn't raise much and they had to sell. But since now, I'll tell you what the trend is now. I used to look out of the house and not see no houses. Now houses are going all around us, all around us.
sorry.